Hello, everyone. My guest today is Brian Bird. He's the co-founder and COO of QuanticMind, the platform for smarter advertising. His company is the pioneer of predictive advertising management software for paid search and social channels. Brian, you ready to take us to the top?
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to be here, Nathan.
Thanks, man. Okay, so that's a mouthful. Help me understand what the company does and what's your revenue model. Is it based off percent of spend or is it pure play SaaS?
Yeah, so great question. So QuanticMind enables performance marketers to achieve superior results. And we do that through a combination of platform as well as service offerings that are layered in on top of that, ultimately depending on the sophistication of the in-house digital marketing team that a particular brand has. So our typical customer is a Google 5000 enterprise marketer. And in some cases, those companies use an agency, in which case they'll the brand will have the agency work with QuanticMind. And in other cases, the brand has an in-house team, and that in-house team will leverage the QuanticMind platform.
Interesting. Now, if you look at your revenue over the past 12 months, what percent would you say is pure SaaS versus services?
Sure. So it's in the mid-90s in terms of the SaaS piece. And
okay.
There is a percent of spend component that goes into how the SaaS fees are charged, but we're a SaaS company that is simply looking to use the services offering to be able to help ensure that we can deliver the technology, because that's the star of the show.
Yeah, it drives churn down, right? When you help people set up on professional services.
Absolutely.
That's great. Okay, give me an example of a customer actually using you. So a lot of the hits, I've had a lot of kind of like Bill Wise, Media Ocean, these kind of companies on, and they always get hit because of the ad tax that they take, right? So how should people think of ad tax relative to how you price and what they get?
Yeah, so ultimately we don't buy or sell any media. So we're simply a technology that helps enable the media acquisition that a brand does to be done more efficiently and to deliver better business results. So I'll give some examples of some of our customers. So and
can you actually use? Would you mind using just because I just had the WP Engine team on? Can you tell me how WP Engine uses you?
Sure. So WP Engine does or spends their digital marketing budget among other places on Google Ads as well as Bing Ads, and so they use QuanticMind to be able to manage and optimize how those investments are made across the Google and Bing advertising ecosystems.
Okay. And then help me understand, I'm sure you have a lot of cohorts, but on average, what do these kinds of companies pay you per year to use your technology?
Sure. So typically in the low to mid six figures on an annualized basis.
Okay.
So our model is really focused on enterprise programs that typically are spending anywhere from a few $1 million a year on up to some that are in the mid to high nine figures a year on what their digital advertising spend is.
How much total ad spend goes through your platform, or is these optimized through your platform annually, would you say?
It's in the low 1 billions.
Yeah, that's kind of a fun number to say, right?
It's well, we have even more data points that the system is processing on a day-to-day basis. I think the last check last week was a little bit north of 17 billion data points per day.
That's great. All right, put this on a timeline for me. When did you launch the company?
So the company launched in 2011, and ultimately that it takes a while to build a platform of this scale. So first 2 to 3 years were spent tinkering, getting alpha and beta customers on board, and ultimately we launched the first version of our enterprise platform in 2014.
Was that your year where you had the first dollar of revenue?
First dollar of revenue was a little bit less than 3 months in.
Okay.
We're revenue hawks. We're going to chase every opportunity. We're going to beg, borrow, and steal to be able to help deliver value to customers. And
I guess the reason I'm asking, I'm always curious. There's a lot of founders that'll spend like $1 million, $2 million over 2 years building a product totally in the dark, and then they go get customers. Versus there's others that are like, you know what, I'm not writing one line of code unless I can pre-sell the idea in a PowerPoint. And there's two very different worlds, right? So I'm curious, what did you spend on your MVP before you had your first dollar of revenue? Do you remember?
I mean, we'd probably spent about $15,000 or $20,000 in total including like incorporation fees and everything before
Yep.
we earned our first dollar of revenue.
That's
So
great. I mean, this is not a simple. So, I mean, you can't build this platform with just 20K. So you were selling very much an idea on that first dollar of revenue.
yeah, well, and the business model, ultimately, we didn't have the platform to provide 3 months in, but we had an ability to deliver value that eventually the platform would be able to automate. And so what we had was ultimately some of the data science based models that would be able to drive the calculations. Those were ready, and we just had to layer in some analyst horsepower behind that to ultimately be able to execute the algorithms, do things like push bids, and ultimately use that as a vehicle to deliver value, keep ingesting data, use that to refine the models, and at the same time have our back-end team continue building the platform.
Yeah, that makes good sense. Now, 2011 was launch date. 3 months later, first revenue. 2014 enterprise platform kind of goes out. How many customers are you now serving today?
It's about 65.
Okay. And do you remember how you got your first 5 that were true SaaS?
There was an old saying that we would use, that if opportunity doesn't knock, then build a door. No one knew who we were in the early days, but we're data geeks and we're going to use data to try to solve problems. So what we wanted to do was be able to model our target market, understand who those top 5,000 Google customers could be. And unfortunately, Google doesn't publish that list, despite our asking. So we had to come up with some creative ways to be able to back our way into who those companies are, and then use things like LinkedIn Sales Navigator to be able to understand who the right contacts are, and then just do targeted, customized outbound messaging to be able to say, hey, we really respect what you've done as a brand to be able to build your business. We believe that we might be able to add some value and love to have an introductory conversation. Yep. And so a discussion like that happened in mid 2013 with the Home Advisor CMO. And ultimately, they came on as our first real enterprise SaaS deal in the beginning of 2014. Huge milestone for the company, but that discussion happened over the course of about 6 months in 2013.
And now is it mostly outbound or inbound, or what's the process today?
Yeah, so for from 2014 through 2018, call it, we were primarily outbound based, but ultimately one of the big transformations that we've made as a business over the last 12 months was just acknowledging that we weren't participating enough in the conversation. And so we made the shift to be able to leverage our in-house experts to be able to do a high volume of content, both high quality content generation across written formats, so ebooks, white papers, but also in events. So we'll be at the eTail East Summit next month in Boston.
Yep.
We also do a lot of things like webinars. We have a data science meets SCM webinar series that is incredibly popular, both with in-house data science teams at some of the biggest digital marketing
Got it. So you're getting some inbound now, right? And then also mixing in these other events as well.
Absolutely.
What's the team size today? How many people?
About 75.
Okay, 75 folks. And did you guys decide to bootstrap this or raise capital and take dilution?
So we have raised capital. So raised a Series A and a Series B.
And what does that add up to in terms of total capital in the company?
So total is in the kind of mid or actually about 37 million.
Okay. And was it all equity or did you use debt?
Those were all equity.
Okay. Why not use debt?
So fair question, and it's one of the options that we do have, and we do have lines that are obviously made available to the company by our banking partners, but ultimately just based on the quality of investors that we've been able to bring on board, we chose the equity route.
You feel like it's worth taking the dilution versus the 6% interest rate on the line because of the strategic value of the investors?
Yep. So, for example, in our Series B, Foundation Capital led that, and Ashu Garg, who had been a part of TubeMogul and part of Adobe, he's been publishing a series on the decade of the CMO. and being able to bring someone with that level of exposure to this particular market onto our board was a very exciting opportunity for the company.
Yep. No, that seems to make a lot of sense. Now, how aggressive are you being in terms of growth? I assume you're burning capital today, right?
A little bit.
Oh, really?
I mean, we're.
Hold on, guys. You have to remember, Brian here is from California, so a little could be like $20 million. So,
Yeah, no,
Brian, are you talking like $1 million a month burn or $100,000 a month burn or what?
No. I mean, we're very close to being able to manage our own growth and fund our own growth, and that's a decision that from our standpoint, it's certainly strategic to make sure that we can allow a little bit of what's going on in the marketplace today to settle itself out. I mean, some companies who we've seen as competitors have really started to struggle over the past few years, and it's given us an opportunity to grow market share, but it's also led to some pretty significant changes from the big marketing clouds as well as from Google. And we have some very innovative ways to be able to address that from a technology standpoint, but there still is a lot that's in motion that we're making sure that as we bring on customers, they're long-term customers that can stick, and not just bringing up. I mean, obviously, retention is a really important thing, and what we do.
Let's actually chat about that. Obviously, retention is critical in any SaaS company. So, if you look at the past 12 months on a revenue basis, what was churn, and then on top of that, what was net revenue retention when you add back expansion?
Sure. So call it gross revenue churn, around 10%. But
annually, right?
Yeah, annually. And the ones who stick, you typically are growing in the kind of low single digits. Okay. So on an annualized basis, then kind of right around break even to slightly positive in terms of the net revenue retention.
Yeah, and just to repeat that back, so 10% annual revenue churn on the cohort that signed up a year ago. What you're saying is those accounts about expanded by the same amount, so you have about 100% net revenue retention.
Yeah, that's about right.
Well, so at this price point, I expect to see like 120, 130, 140% net revenue retention typically, because upselling, I mean, it's asking them to go from $100,000 a month or a year to, $120,000 a year. It's not that huge, massive difference. Why don't you have more upsell revenue, more expansion revenue?
Yeah, so great question. And at least what we've done historically is offer the product as one suite. And typically when a brand is coming onto the QuanticMind platform, they put all their digital marketing dollars onto QuanticMind. So in terms of the growth that we see, oftentimes it's the organic growth of a program naturally scaling, say going from 15 million a year to 17 million a year
in spend.
In spend, then that leading to the organic growth. So
you upsell against the spend then.
So that's one of the components where the spend will factor into what the committed revenue will be, and so whether we're doing adjustments at the next renewal, or whether it is a variable piece that'll adjust what the minimum is on a monthly basis. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Got it. And then Brian, a critical piece to obviously being break even or in control of your own destiny is to make sure you get to the point where essentially whatever you're spending on CAC is paid back as instant as possible, right? So to get let's just call it an easy $100,000 first year contract. Will you spend the full $100,000 up front to acquire the customer, or what do you optimize for payback period wise?
I mean, so we certainly want to keep the CAC below that 12-month payback period. And it depends on the quarter. I mean, so when we're talking about 65 customers here, we're not talking about bringing on an additional 30 per quarter or anything like that. So, but typically it's going to be in that call it 8 to 11 month payback period.
Okay, good. So that's where you are today, and you're comfortable there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Correct. And where are you spending that money? Is it salespeople commission mainly, or events, or paid marketing?
Yeah. So it's a little bit of everything. So all the above. But certainly this is this product, it's really important to be able to go sit across the table from the folks who are going to be able to be using it, and make sure that they've met our data analysts, they've met our data science team, and they're able to feel comfortable and trust that the care and thought that we've put into building this product is something that they can feel good about. Just because when you talk about digital marketing practitioners, that it's both an art and a science. And we're not trying to challenge or say that we're automating anyone out of a job. but there are a lot of the components of what the platform does that will change the way that the practitioner is going to do their job. And we need to really make sure that they understand what that transformation looks like and feel good about how their skills are going to continue being relevant while they're allowing the machine to do the parts that may not be the best use of their time.
Mm-hmm. Before we wrap up, if you take 65 customers, which we talked about earlier, and you mentioned earlier also these contract values, call it low to mid kind of six figures. Let's say it's minimum 100 grand a year or 10 grand a month across 65 customers. It's fair and accurate to say you're above 650 grand a month right now in revenue?
Yeah, or definitely a fair.
Yeah. Hopefully way above that, right?
Yeah.
Where, in terms of growth, if you go back a year ago from today, where were you at that point?
So we've just about doubled over the past year.
Okay, good. And what's the next big milestone? I mean, do you think you hit 20 million bucks in ARR this year, or is that a stretch goal and it's a little uncomfortable?
I mean, not too far out of the ballpark.
You don't sound very confident here.
No. Well, so with revenue figures and specifics, I mean, we have company policy that we play those cards a little bit.
Oh, got it.
Given who we're taking customers away from, we're really starting to irk some of those larger marketing.
Well, good. They'll love listening to this episode. Then they'll hate you even more.
And they can. We'll sell against them all day long. We love it.
Fair enough. I guess I'll rephrase that question so you don't actually have to review the actual number. Are you trying to double or triple year over year at this point?
I'd say double is the realistic projection that we're working toward.
Yeah, and another funding round coming up. You're about a year and a half, or actually 2 years removed from your last one. Now would be the time.
Yeah, so always having those conversations. We don't need the capital right now, but it's certainly something to look at. If there is a strategic opportunity that aligns itself well, then certainly we're having those conversations, and we'll continue to.
Do you think, because you were founded almost a decade ago at this point, do you feel like that will be a secondary where there's providing some early liquidity to early folks, or do you think most of it will be towards good to our operations?
I mean, the focus of what we're doing is building the company. We're not trying to have something where we're treating a particular class of folks within the company separately or giving any sort of, if you're an employee, you're a team member, regardless of whether you're a founder or you joined yesterday. Yeah. So we want to give everyone the same level playing field and hold ourselves accountable to that.
All right, famous five. Let's wrap up here. Number one, what's your favorite business book, Brian?
So one that I make a point to read frequently is The Hard Thing About Hard Things, just because I would consider that the startup Bible.
Number two, is there a CEO you're following or studying right now?
Jeff Bezos has always done some amazing and innovative things, but what he's doing in digital advertising right now is really powerful. It's exciting.
What's he calling that platform again?
Just the Amazon marketing platform, I believe.
Yeah. Number three, what's your favorite online tool for building your company?
I know your interviewees give this a lot, but I'd say Salesforce.
Okay. Do you listen to the show?
I've when we initially heard from you guys, we spent some time listening to some of the interviews and such, just to get a little bit better idea of what's going on. But yeah, I've gotten accustomed to it. Good.
I like that. That's good to hear. I'm glad you still came on. Some people, they listen, they go, "Oh my gosh, Nathan, you're so mean and nasty." And I go, "No, I'm a big teddy bear in person. I
want to talk to you about the food truck business, but we'll do that separately."
Yeah, there you go. Number four, how many hours of sleep are you getting every night?
According to my Fitbit, it's probably a little bit over 5.
And how old are you?
I'm 38.
Situation, married, single, kids?
Married, 18-month-old son and a 14-year-old dog.
Oh, how fun. Okay. And last question here. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
I get 2 things. Keep it simple, and it's all about people.
Guys, keep it simple. QuanticMind, serving 65 enterprise customers, call it in the low billions of ad spend being optimized through their platform. Those customers are all paying in the 6 figures, so call it well north of $650,000 a month right now in revenue, more than doubling year over year as they drive growth. They could be profitable if they wanted to be. $37 million into the company last round about 2 years ago, so who knows, maybe a fundraising round coming up here soon. 10% annual revenue churn on the base, but about 10% expansion, so they're about 100% net revenue retention there. And Brian is totally comfortable spending anywhere between, call it 8 and 10 months of first year ACV to acquire the customer in the first place as they look to scale. Brian, thanks for taking us to the top.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan. Great chatting with you.